Okay, so attention training Tuesday. Let's see. I thought today we do a kind of a practice which is really it's like going to the gym, like the mental attention training gym, where we're just going to switch back and forth between two types of attention. And why attention? Well, attention is pretty important. This is Rachel Naomi Remen. She's a physician at UCSF, a wonderful human being. And she has to say the most basic and important way to connect to another person is to listen, just listen. Perhaps the most important thing we ever give each other is our attention. And again, we all know this conceptually, but it's easier said than done. Actually, what does it actually mean to give someone your attention? And so what I want to focus on today is there are two types of attention that we can intentionally activate. So the first one is what I would call focused attention. This is usually when we think of attention, it's like, oh, I'm focusing on this one object or this one person or this one situation. So it's very much like this flashlight that this guy is holding here. It's a very focused beam of attention, and we shine it around, and we that's what we're focusing on. The other kind of attention is what we call diffuse attention. So this is more like a lantern. So imagine you go into a dark space and you have a flashlight or a lantern. You're going to have very different experiences of what's around you. Focused attention allows you to see one thing at a time and be really focused. If you had a lantern, you would kind of see everything a little bit, but none of it's really in clear focus. But you get to see a whole lot more, right? It's almost like the aperture, the lens of your attention is bigger. And there are pros and cons to both, and they're both very appropriate in different situations, right? So focused attention is really about concentration, maybe about execution and really fixating or studying one thing. And diffuse attention is more relaxed. It allows you to see potentially the connection between different things. So innovation is a part of that. Um, yeah, so they're just, neither one is better than the other one, but it's really situational. And so being able to harness both is really key. So let's try that for the next few minutes. And as always, let's close our eyes. Hmm. Settling into the here and now. I've had a pretty hectic morning. I've been running around, and both forms of attention have been very active for me. And I've been trying to really stay clued into what's needed or what's the most useful in any given time. Let's start by some focused attention. So notice the feet, place them flat on the ground. You can wiggle your toes to bring even more attention to your feet. See if you can notice what it's like. What's the sensory or what's the sensory experience of bringing your full attention to your feet and wiggling your toes? So just moving them around, noticing sensations in the toes, maybe pushing the heels of your feet into the ground. This is an example of focused attention. Focusing on the feet at as you could say, at the expense of focusing on other things. And see if you can sort of describe this as zooming out. So imagine you zoom up and you're about 6 feet above yourself looking down. Notice there's a part of you that's still maybe wiggling your toes or paying attention to the feet, but you see so much more as well. You see the body, the head, hands, the wiggling feet. It's a bigger perspective. This is diffuse attention. What we're flexing here is our capacity to choose the aperture that we want to be paying attention with in this moment. So we can choose to zoom into the feet, or we can choose to zoom out and realize that the feet are attached to a body, to legs, to a torso, to a head. We're in a room or a car, and you can keep zooming out. That car or that room is in a neighborhood with streets. You can zoom out even further, and now you see lots of streets and trees and buildings. And in order to take all of that in, you can't focus on any one thing in particular. It's really, hence it's diffuse. It's noticing a little bit of all of it at the same time. Let's hang out a few hundred feet above the body, looking down. There are people and cars, buildings, and trees. And then just to emphasize the point, now zoom all the way back in to your hands this time. Bring your full attention to just the hands, noticing temperature, texture. My fingers are interlocked, interlaced. I'm moving the palms of my hands around, allowing me to really feel and notice what it's like to be me and have hands and fingers and fingernails. This is focused attention. And we can relax the focus a little bit and realize that those hands and fingers are actually attached to arms that have elbows, shoulders. Now you're noticing all of the above at the same time. Those arms are connected to shoulders that are connected to a chest, rib cage, and a spine. The whole body is taking in the overall sensation of what it's like to have a body without focusing on any one part in particular, just noticing the feeling tone of the body. And noticing how we are making the decision here. This is a conscious, deliberate opening or closing of the aperture to be able to choose how much we let in, how much we want to pay attention to. And we can zoom all the way out. Notice the body in a chair, in a building next to a street, and streets and other buildings. And that's diffuse attention. And let's focus on the breath. So take a deep breath in through the nose, filling up the lungs, long, slow exhale through the mouth, noticing how the lungs deflate, the rib cage contracts, the belly. Then hold the out breath for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Another deep inhale through the nose. Long, slow exhale. As long as you can make it. And then hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead, open your eyes. Come on back to the session. So the point of that exercise, as I said earlier, this is very much like just going to the gym, right? So it's really doing a very specific. Let me see to what extent I can use my intention to focus my attention on small things or big things, and just notice what that feels like. Because that familiarity with the feeling of what it's like to focus attention or have diffuse attention comes in really handy as we go through our day to day, talking to people, driving our cars, cooking dinner, hanging out with, a room full of people at work, whatever it might be. So hope that was useful. I'll stick around for a few more if you want to chat. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. Thanks, everyone.